Hello, this is Jane Hugh. I am presenting on my final project, which is building the Fortune website. I'm going to first talk about S3 bucket. I created a S3 bucket and named it Fortune. And for this bucket, I also made it public so anybody on the internet can view this website. To make this bucket public, I inserted a policy under the bucket policy tab. I also turned off the block all public access. Next, I created a cookie.jpg and the index.html files and uploaded both under the S3 bucket. Under the Properties tab, I enabled the static website hosting feature, and I confirmed that the index.html file shows up there, and from here I can tell where the endpoint is. With the endpoint information, I next opened up the Firefox browser and I went to the website to see if I could see it from the internet. Next, I want to talk through the DynamoDB steps on creating the backend database tables. To access DynamoDB, once you log into your console, you can maneuver to the services and it'll be under database. Within DynamoDB, I created a table and called it Fortune. On the right hand side, under the overview, you'll see that I created a Fortune ID and set that as the primary partition key, and then also the Fortune message as the primary sort key. You'll also need to remember what your partition key is as well as the sort key for your JavaScript code. Also, I created the DynamoDB tables under the US East 1 region, so it's the Northern Virginia region. I found it helpful to have the DynamoDB tables created in the same region as my S3 bucket. It's not necessary, but it was helpful for me when I was coding the JavaScript. Under the Items tab, you'll see the Fortune ID as 123 and the corresponding Fortune message for each of the Fortune IDs. To add another Fortune ID and Fortune, just click on the blue button that says Create Item. Another window will pop up, and here you can enter in the next Fortune ID, which is number 4, and you can also create your own Fortune message that corresponds to the 4th Fortune ID. Once you select Save, you can see that the 4th ID for Fortune ID is among the list of all the other Fortune IDs along with the Fortune message that you created. Next, I want to talk about the Cognito and IAM services. So Cognito provides authentication, authorization, and user management for your website and mobile apps. In this case, I am going to use Amazon Cognito to manage identity to my website, the Fortune website. In order to get to Cognito, once you're logged in, you can maneuver to the security section and compliance section, and it should be under the IAM selection. Once you click on the Cognito link, it'll take you to this page where you're presented with two choices. I selected the Manage Identity Pools. So in order for my JavaScript to work, for it to access the DynamoDB tables, it has to provide credentials. But I didn't want to hard code my credentials into JavaScript. So to get around that, I had to use Amazon Cognito, and I configured the JavaScript files to use an Amazon Cognito unauthenticated role to access the DynamoDB web service. To start, I went under the Cognito service and I created an identity pool called Fortune. Within the identity pool of Fortune, I had to create two new roles. The first role is for the authenticated users, and the other is for unauthenticated users. Since my website didn't have a user login page, I will rely on the unauthenticated role called cognito underscore fortune unauth underscore role one. You'll also want to make sure that the unauthenticated identities is checked for enable access to unauthenticated identities. After creating the two roles, AWS provided the following code for my JavaScript, and I added it into my index.html file. Here is a screenshot of the HTML file where I inserted the Amazon Cognito credentials provider. Based on the code that AWS provided, it shows the US East 1 region, which is where I am located, and also the new AWS Cognito identity credentials, as well as the identity pool ID. So this is the place where you would insert your the code into the JavaScript. Otherwise, you would have to hard code your credentials, which is a huge security flaw. Then I went under the IAM service and I located the new Cognito role called Cognito Fortune Unauth Role 1 and granted the role full access to the DynamoDB service by attaching a managed policy called Amazon DynamoDB Full Access. This step is absolutely necessary because you want to grant your JavaScript the full privileges of accessing the DynamoDB tables so you can query, you can get item, you can update items inside the DynamoDB tables. Now we are ready to get our fortune from the website. Now I go back to our web browser. I use Firefox here, and I go to the website that's hosted on the S3 bucket. What I do is I type in either a 1, a 2, or a 3, depending on which fortune I want to get. As an end user, if I type in 1 on the console, it displays the message that is attached or corresponds to the fortune ID of 1. If I type in 2, then the fortune message that is tied to fortune ID number 2 is displayed. And finally, if I type 3, then the third message will be displayed as well. So this is my presentation for the final project for creating the Fortune website using services such as DynamoDB, IAM, Cognito, and S3 Bucket. Thank you.